General Rack stood at the viewing window of the Karakian warship Dreadnought. His scaled skin gleamed under the blue lights of the command deck. He gazed at the stars with 4 yellow eyes, each pair blinking in turn. The heavy gravity generators hummed beneath his feet, set to match his homeworld's crushing pull. The other species in the Galactic Council could barely walk in these conditions. "General, we have detected unusual signals from Sector 7, said Science Officer Zex as she approached, her movements fluid despite the gravity. Her scales were lighter in color, marked with the blue patches of a knowledge cast member. Rax turned slowly. "What kind of signals?" "Artificial. Organized. They show signs of intelligence," Zex replied. She handed him a data pad showing wave patterns. "They originate from a planet with conditions similar to Karak." This caught Rax's full attention. For generations, the Karakians had dominated the galaxy. They were the only known species to evolve on a death world, a planet so harsh and dangerous that most council races considered it impossible for intelligent life to develop there. This status gave the Karakians special standing. It made them feared. "Similar to Karak? You mean another death world?" Rax asked, his voice low and gravelly. "Yes, General. Initial scans show high gravity, extreme temperature variations, dangerous wildlife, unpredictable weather patterns, and traces of radiation. By council standards, it should be uninhabitable." Rax made a deep sound in his throat, the Karakian equivalent of a thoughtful hum. "And yet something intelligent lives there, something broadcasting into space." "That appears to be the case," Zex said. "The planet is called Earth by its inhabitants according to our translation of their broadcasts." Rax walked to the command table, his heavy footsteps echoing on the metal floor. With a gesture, he brought up a holographic map of the sector. The unexplored system glowed red. "How developed are they?" he asked. "Primitive compared to us," Zex replied. "They have achieved space travel, but only within their own system. They have not yet developed faster-than-light technology." Around them, other Karakian officers worked at their stations. They were all large, powerful beings with thick scales and heavy bones, evolved to survive the brutal conditions of their homeworld. Their race had fought and clawed their way to intelligence against all odds. It had made them tough. It had made them proud. "Prepare. A diplomatic vessel," Rax ordered suddenly. "I will lead this first contact myself." Zex blinked in surprise. "You, General? This could be handled by a junior diplomatic team." "No," Rax said firmly. "If there is another Death World species, I want to see them with my own eyes." He didn't speak the rest of his thoughts aloud, that another species from a harsh world might someday challenge Karakian dominance. Better to assess this threat early. "As you wish, General," Zex said with a respectful bow. "I will make the preparations." 2 days later, Rax stood before the Galactic Council representatives who had been traveling with the Karakian fleet. The council chamber aboard the Dreadnought was kept at a lower gravity setting for the comfort of the non-Karakian members, which always irritated Rax. He towered over the others, the delicate, crystalline Al-Nasi ambassador who floated rather, then walked, and the small, gray-skinned Viridian with its oversized head full of the most advanced brain in the galaxy. "This expedition is unnecessary," said Ambassador Thiel of the Al-Nasi. His voice tinkled like wind chimes. "We have protocols for first contact with primitive species." "Protocols that would take years," Rax replied. "I prefer a more direct approach." The Viridian ambassador, Nell, blinked slowly. "You are concerned? These Earthlings might be like you, another race of warriors from a deadly world." Rax had long ago stopped being surprised by Viridian insight. "I am curious, nothing more." "Your curiosity comes with 6 warships," Nell observed. "Standard escort for a vessel carrying a general," Rax said dismissively. "My decision is made. We leave tomorrow." Meanwhile, on Earth, Commander Jason Miller walked through the gleaming corridor of the starship Horizon. It was humanity's most advanced vessel, built through the combined efforts of nations that had once been enemies. The ship represented hope that humans could put aside their differences and reach for the stars together. "Commander, the final system checks are complete," said Lieutenant Samantha Wells as she fell into step beside him. Her short brown hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, her uniform crisp and precise. "How's the crew doing, Lieutenant?" Miller asked. "Excited, nervous, ready," Wells replied with a small smile. "This is what we've all trained for." Miller nodded. At 42, he had spent most of his life working toward this mission, humanity's first real step into deep space. The Horizon wasn't just a ship, it was a symbol of what people could achieve together. They entered the bridge, a circular room, filled with screens and control panels. Through the main viewport, the blackness of space stretched endlessly, dotted with stars. "Status report," Miller called out. "All systems green," replied Navigator Eric Chen from his station. "Launch trajectory plotted and confirmed. Life support at 100%, added Dr. Laura Adams, the ship's chief medical officer. "Crew health checks complete." Miller took his seat in the command chair. "Communications?" "All channels." "Clear," said Communications Officer Greg Wilson. "United Earth Alliance sends their final approval for launch." A sense of pride filled Miller's chest. After centuries of war and division, humanity had finally united enough to build this ship. To launch this mission, they were ready to see what lay beyond their solar system. "Final preparations for departure," he ordered. "We launch in 30 minutes. What none of them knew was that they weren't launching into empty space. The Karakian diplomatic vessel, along with its escort of warships, was already entering the outer reaches of the solar system. First contact was coming sooner than either species expected. In his private quarters aboard the Dreadnought, General Rax reviewed the information they had gathered about Earth. The more he learned, the more uneasy he became. The planet had more natural disasters than Karak, more climate zones, more diseases, and an astonishing diversity of life forms. And the humans themselves had spent much of their history fighting each other, creating weapons of incredible destructive power, then somehow stepping back from the brink of self-destruction. "Maybe you're right to worry," Zek said, noting his expression. "If they survived all that, they must be formidable." Rax closed the data file. "Or lucky. We'll soon find out." Which? The alarm on the horizon blared loudly, jerking Commander Miller from his thoughts. He had been reviewing the mission parameters when the bridge erupted into activity. "Unidentified objects approaching from the outer system," Navigator Chen called, out, his fingers flying across his control panel. "7 vessels moving fast, they're not ours." Miller leaned forward in his chair. "Put it on the main screen." The view screen flickered, showing 7 ships entering the solar system. 6 formed a protective ring around a larger central vessel. Their design was unlike anything built by human hands, sleek, dark, with strange bulges and protrusions that hinted at alien technology. "Are they responding to our hails?" Miller asked, keeping his voice steady despite his racing heart. Communications Officer Wilson shook his head. "Nothing yet, Commander. I'm broadcasting on all frequencies." "Lieutenant." Wells moved to Miller's side. "Orders, sir?" Miller considered their options. The Horizon was designed for exploration, not combat. They carried minimal weapons, just enough to deflect space debris. Running wasn't possible. The alien ships were clearly faster. "Maintain position," he decided. "Continue broadcasting peaceful intentions. Alert Earth Defense Command." On the Karakian diplomatic vessel, General Rax watched the small human ship with interest. It was tiny compared to their warships, barely the size of a Karakian scout vessel. "They're broadcasting some kind of message," reported the communications officer. "Translate it," Rax ordered. After a moment, a human voice came through the speakers, translated by the ship's computers. "Unknown vessels, this is Commander Jason Miller of the Earthship Horizon. We are on a peaceful mission of exploration. Please identify yourselves." Rax made a low rumbling sound deep in his throat. "They speak confidently for such a small vessel. Science." Officer Zek studied her readings. "General, scans show minimal weapons. They are essentially defenseless." "Yet they don't flee," Rax noted with grudging respect. "Open a channel." The image of Commander Miller appeared on the Karakian view screen. The humans looked even more fragile than Rax had anticipated. No protective scales, thin limbs, soft skin. How could such beings survive on a death world? Earth vessel, Rax said, his translator converting his gravelly Karakian speech to human language. I am General Rax of the Karakian Empire. We have come to establish contact with your species. On the horizon, Miller and his crew stared at the alien that appeared on their view screen. General Rax stood nearly 8 feet tall, with thick scales covering his body. 4 yellow eyes blinked independently of each other. His frame was massive, suggesting immense strength. We welcome contact, Miller replied, working to keep his voice steady. This is a historic moment for humanity. We had no idea other intelligent life existed in our galaxy. You are very isolated, Rax replied. Most spacefaring species are part of the Galactic Council. We detected your transmissions and came to investigate. Lieutenant Wells leaned close to Miller and whispered, They're scanning us, sir. Deep scans of our ship and our biology. Miller nodded slightly, then addressed, The alien again. We propose a formal meeting to establish diplomatic relations. We have a space station orbiting our 4th planet that could serve as neutral ground. Rax considered this. These humans were primitive but showed proper respect. Acceptable. We will meet in 12 of your Earth hours. As the transmission ended, Miller turned to his crew. Contact Earth immediately. We need to get Ambassador Wright to Mars Station as quickly as possible. Wells frowned. Sir, do you think it's wise to meet aliens on our own? We have no idea what their intentions are. We don't have much choice, Lieutenant, Miller replied. Their ships could destroy us in seconds if they wanted to. Better to talk than fight. 12 hours later, Miller stood with Ambassador Alan Wright and Lieutenant Wells on Mars Station. Dr. Paul Jones, the ship's xenobiologist, completed their small delegation. The station had been hastily prepared for this historic meeting, with Earth governments working together with unprecedented speed and cooperation. Ambassador Wright, a tall man with graying hair and calm blue eyes, straightened his formal uniform. Remember, our goal is peaceful contact. Learn what we can about them. Establish basic diplomatic protocols and avoid any misunderstandings. Their biology is fascinating, Dr. Jones said, reviewing the scans they had taken. Their skeletal and muscular structure suggests they evolved in a much higher gravity environment than Earth. Those scales would provide protection against extreme temperatures and radiation, which might explain their attitude, Wells added. They seem confident, almost arrogant. A station technician interrupted them. Sir, the alien shuttle is docking now. The humans gathered in the station's conference room. Minutes later, the door slid open, and the Karakians entered. General Rax had to duck to clear the doorway. Behind him came a smaller Karakian with lighter-colored scales marked with blue patches, and 4 guards that towered over even the general. The gravity difference was immediately apparent. The aliens moved with careful precision, as if afraid they might accidentally break something. Welcome to Mars Station, Ambassador Wright said, stepping forward with his hand extended. Rax looked at the offered hand with confusion, then turned to the lighter-scaled Karakian. Science Officer Zex, explain this gesture. It appears to be a greeting ritual, General, Zex replied, a showing of empty hands perhaps to demonstrate lack of weapons. Rax grunted and extended his much larger hand. Wright shook it carefully, trying not to show discomfort at the alien's strength. Please be seated, Wright said, gesturing to reinforced chairs prepared for the Karakians. Once everyone was seated, Wright began a formal introduction, explaining humanity's history of space exploration and expressing hope for peaceful relations. During this speech, Rax leaned toward Zex and spoke in low tones. You said Earth was a death world. How could these fragile creatures evolve in such conditions? I'm still analyzing the data, General, Zex replied. Their planet does have high gravity by Council standards, extreme weather patterns, and dangerous predators. Yet they lack natural defenses. No scales, no claws, minimal physical strength compared to us. Rax studied the humans with growing suspicion. They're hiding something, No species survives a death world without becoming strong. When Wright finished speaking, Rax leaned forward, his chair creaking under his weight. You speak of peace and cooperation, Ambassador. Yet you haven't explained the most important thing, how your species survived on such a harsh world with such weak bodies. The humans exchanged glances, confused by the question. I'm not sure I understand, Wright replied. Earth has its challenges, but we've adapted over thousands of generations. Impossible, Rax said flatly. Our scans show your planet has more natural disasters, climate extremes, and predators than even Karak. No species survives such conditions without becoming as strong as we are. Lieutenant Wells, sensing the growing tension, spoke up. Perhaps our definitions of strength differ, General. Rax's 4 eyes fixed on her. Strength is strength, human, and you are hiding yours. I want to know how. The meeting room fell silent after General Rax's accusation. Ambassador Wright maintained his diplomatic smile, but it was strained. I assure you, General, we're hiding nothing, Wright said. Humans have always been physically weaker than many Earth species. We survived through intelligence, cooperation, and tool use. Rax made a dismissive sound. Words. I need proof. He stood suddenly, his massive frame making the humans seem small by comparison. On Karak, we have a tradition. When 2 tribes meet for the first time, they test each other through challenges. This reveals truth better than words. Lieutenant. Wells tensed, but Commander Miller placed a calming hand on her arm. What kind of challenges do you propose? Ambassador Wright asked carefully. 3 trials, Rax said. A test of strength, a test of mind, and a test of survival. Each species will select champions. Science Officer Zek stepped forward. General, this is not standard council protocol for... The council is not here, Rax interrupted. And these... Humans claim to be Deathworlders like us. They should prove it. Ambassador Wright conferred quietly with Miller and the others, then turned back to Rax. We accept your challenge, General, but we request 24 hours to prepare. Granted, Rax said. We will conduct the trials on your Mars surface. The environment is harsh enough to be fair to both sides. As the meeting ended, Lieutenant Wells kept her voice low. Sir, this seems dangerous. Their physical strength is clearly superior to ours. Miller nodded. That's true, but this is about more than strength. The General wants to understand us, and maybe this is the fastest way. He turned to Ambassador Wright. We need to select our champions carefully. Back on the horizon, Miller called a meeting of the ship's senior officers. We need 3 volunteers for these challenges. Each person should play to human strengths. For the strength test, Marine Sergeant Frank Adams stepped forward. He wasn't the biggest human, standing just under 6 feet, but he had won Earth's martial arts championship 3 years running. I can't match them in raw power, Adams said, but technique and leverage might surprise them. For the mind test, they selected Chief Engineer Olivia Rivera. With doctorates in both quantum physics and mechanical engineering, she represented the best of human problem solving. The survival challenge presented the biggest concern. After some discussion, they chose Jack Peterson, the ship's wilderness expert who had survived alone for a year in Earth's harshest environments during his training. The next day, both delegations met on the Martian surface. They wore environmental suits, as Mars had only a thin atmosphere. The Karakians seemed uncomfortable in their bulky suits, used to the heavy pressure of their homeworld. The first challenge took place in a temporary dome structure with breathable air, allowing both species to remove their helmets. Sergeant E. Adams faced a Karakian warrior named Vrax who stood nearly 9 feet tall with rippling muscles visible beneath his scales. The rules are simple, General Rax announced. The first to surrender or become unable to continue loses. The match began, and immediately the size difference became apparent. Vrax lunged at Adams with surprising speed for his size. The human dodged, barely avoiding a blow that would have ended the match instantly. Stop running, human, Vrax growled. Face me with honor. Adams didn't waste breath responding. He circled, studying his opponent's movements. The Karakian was powerful, but predictable. When Vrax charged again, Adams used the alien's momentum against him. executing a perfect throw that sent the surprised Karakian tumbling. Vrax roared in anger, getting back to his feet quickly. This time his attacks were more cautious. After several minutes of combat, Adams was tiring. A glancing blow caught him on the shoulder, sending him sprawling. "Yield, human," Vrax demanded, moving closer. Instead, Adams swept his leg in a low kick that caught the Karakian at a joint in his leg. The alien stumbled, and Adams struck precisely at nerve points he had observed during the fight. Vrax's arm went temporarily numb. The fight continued for 10 more minutes. Adams couldn't win through strength, but his endurance surprised the Karakians. Finally, a powerful blow from Vrax ended the match, sending Adams to the ground, unable to rise. "The Karakians win the first challenge," General Rax announced, though his tone lacked the triumph everyone expected. "Your warrior fought unexpectedly well." Adams was helped to his feet. Despite his loss, the respect in the Karakians' eyes was clear. The second challenge took place in an engineering bay. Chief Engineer Rivera faced Science Officer Zex. They were presented with a complex mechanical puzzle, a broken atmospheric processor that needed to be repaired with limited tools and time. While Zex approached the problem methodically, Rivera took a more creative approach. She repurposed parts in ways the Karakian didn't consider, creating workarounds for missing components. "What are you doing?" Zex asked, watching Rivera connect two seemingly unrelated systems. "Improvising," Rivera replied with a small smile. She had once repaired a life support system with duct tape and spare parts during a crisis on Earth. This challenge was difficult, but not impossible. When time expired, both had working solutions. Zex's was more elegant and would last longer. Rivera's was quicker to implement and used fewer resources. "A draw," General Rax declared after examining both repairs. Different approaches, both effective. The final challenge was the most dangerous. Jack Peterson and a Karakian scout named Thax were each taken to different locations on the Martian surface with minimal supplies. They had to survive for 3 days and reach a designated pickup point 50 miles away. Unknown to the humans, Thax had been ordered to secretly observe Peterson during the challenge. The Karakians wanted to see how humans truly behaved when facing survival situations. Peterson started by taking inventory of his supplies: 1 day's water, emergency rations, a basic toolkit, and his environmental suit. The suit would provide oxygen and protection from Mars's extreme temperature shifts, but its power would last only 48 hours without recharging. He immediately began walking toward the pickup point, using the stars for navigation. Along the way, he collected soil samples and small rocks. To the watching Thax, this seemed foolish, wasting energy on useless objects. When night fell and temperatures plummeted, Peterson created a small shelter against a rock formation. He placed his collected rocks around his suit's external heating element, then used them throughout the night to maintain his body temperature while conserving suit power. Thax was impressed by this innovation, but remained convinced of Karakian superiority. On the second day, he decided to test the human further. While Peterson was crossing a narrow ravine, Thax caused a small rock slide that damaged the human's oxygen recycler. With his oxygen supply compromised, Peterson faced a life-threatening situation. Rather than panic, he calmly disassembled parts of his communication system, using components to create a makeshift filter that, while crude, kept him breathing. By the third day, both reached the pickup point. Peterson arrived tired but alive despite the sabotage. Thax reported what he had seen to an increasingly thoughtful General Rax. "The human should have died when his oxygen system failed," Thax said. "Instead, he adapted in ways I've never seen." "Science." Officer Zex's eyes widened. "You sabotaged him? That wasn't part of the challenge?" "I needed to see how he would react to true danger," Thax replied without apology. General Rax stared at the exhausted but triumphant human being helped into the transport vehicle. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "we have been measuring strength by the wrong standards." After the 3 challenges, both humans and Karakians gathered on Mars Station for a formal meeting. The mood had shifted from the tense first encounter. There was now curiosity on both sides. and perhaps the beginning of respect. Your people performed unexpectedly well, General Rack said to Ambassador Wright. His tone was different now, less dismissive. Thank you, General, Wright replied. I hope this helps you understand that strength takes many forms. Before Rax could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. A technician rushed into the room. Solar flare, sir, a massive one headed directly toward Mars. Impact in 20 minutes. Commander Miller immediately stood. How bad? Category 5, sir. The station shields can handle it, but any ships in orbit will take heavy damage. The Karakians looked confused. Science Officer Zex turned to her portable scanner. What is a solar flare? A massive eruption of energy from our sun, Dr. Jones explained quickly. It releases radiation and charged particles that can damage electronics and living tissue. Rax's communication device buzzed. He listened for a moment, then turned to Miller with concern. Our shuttle cannot return to our main vessel in time, and our main vessel reports shield malfunctions. Miller exchanged looks with Wright, then made a quick decision. Your shuttle can remain docked here. Our station shields will protect it. As for your main vessel... He paused, thinking. Lieutenant Wells, what's the status of the Horizon? Our shields were designed specifically to withstand solar events, sir, Wells replied. They're stronger than standard Council designs in this specific area. Can we extend our shield protection to cover their vessel? Chief Engineer Rivera, still tired from her challenge, stepped forward. Not from here. Someone would need to go to their ship and modify their shield generators to accept our frequency patterns. Miller nodded. I'll go. Rivera, you're with me. We'll take our shuttle. General Rax stared at the humans. You would risk yourselves for our vessel? That's what neighbors do, Miller replied simply. 15 minutes later, Miller and Rivera boarded the Karakian vessel. Science Officer Zex met them in the docking bay, along with several Karakian engineers. We have only minutes, Zex said, leading them quickly through corridors designed for beings much larger than humans. They reached the shield control room, where Rivera immediately got to work. She plugged a human device into the Karakian systems, while Miller helped translate between the engineers of both species. Your shield technology is advanced, one Karakian engineer noted, but in a different direction than ours. Ours focuses on physical impacts. Earth's sun is very active, Rivera explained as she worked. Solar flares are common. We designed our shields to handle radiation first, physical impacts second. On the bridge of the Karakian vessel, the captain watched the approaching solar flare with growing concern. Their shields were at only 60% capacity due to an earlier malfunction. At that level, critical systems would be damaged by the flare. Shield modifications in progress, reported a technician. The human engineer is integrating their protective frequencies into our system. The captain, a veteran of many battles, found himself in the unusual position of depending on an alien species he had considered inferior just days ago. In the shield room, Rivera worked frantically. The systems are compatible, but your power distribution is different. I need to... She was cut off as sparks flew from the console. A power surge had damaged part of the interface. We're out of time, Zex said, checking her scanner. Flare. Impact in 1 minute. Rivera looked at the damaged console, then at Miller. I need to manually hold the connection. There's no time to repair it. That's too dangerous, Miller said. The feedback could... It's the only way, Rivera interrupted. She turned to the Karakian engineers. I need insulated material. Quickly. They brought her thick protective gloves designed for Karakian hands. They were huge on her, but she put them on anyway. As the countdown to the flare hit 30 seconds, she gripped 2 exposed connection points, creating a human bridge in the circuit. Shields to 80%, reported a technician on the bridge. 85. 90. The flare hit with blinding intensity. The ship shuddered but held together as the enhanced shields absorbed the radiation blast. In the shield room, Rivera grimaced in pain as some feedback made it through the gloves, but she maintained her grip until the worst had passed. When it was over, she collapsed, exhausted. The Karakian medical team rushed her to their infirmary while Miller followed. On the bridge, the captain received reports of minimal damage. The human shields worked, he told General Rax via communicator. Their engineer. She put herself at risk to complete the connection. In the Karakian infirmary, Rivera lay on a medical bed designed for a much larger species. Her hands were burned, but not severely. Dr. Jones had come aboard to help treat her, working alongside the Karakian medical officer. Your cellular structure is fascinating, the Karakian doctor said as he examined Rivera. You heal much faster than expected for beings with your physical limitations. Humans evolved to recover quickly, Dr. Jones explained. We may get injured, more easily than Karakians, but we bounce back fast. General Rax entered the infirmary, ducking to clear the doorway. He stood silently for a moment looking at the injured human who had saved his ship. Why did you do it? He finally asked Rivera. You put yourself in danger for a species you just met. A species that has shown you little but contempt. Rivera winced as Dr. Jones applied medication to her hands. Because it was the right thing to do. And because that's how we survived Earth. Rax looked confused. By risking yourselves for others? By working together, Miller explained, standing at Rivera's bedside. Humans aren't strong individually. We could never match a Karakian in direct physical combat. But we're strong as a group. We solve problems together. We protect each other. Meanwhile, Science Officer Zex had been granted access to the human database on the horizon. What she found astonished her. Earth was far more dangerous than even their initial scans had suggested. It had thousands more natural disasters than Karak. It had more extreme climate variations, from burning deserts to freezing polar regions. Its ocean covered most of the planet and contained predators that would terrify even Karakians. Most significantly, humans had spent most of their history fighting each other. Their weapons had evolved from simple clubs to devices that could destroy entire cities. Yet somehow, they had pulled back from self-destruction. They had united enough to build ships like the Horizon. Zex compiled her findings and sent them to General Rax's personal device. When he read them in the infirmary, his four eyes blinked rapidly in surprise. This cannot be accurate, he said, looking at Miller. Your world is more dangerous than Karak by every measure, and your most dangerous predator was always yourselves? Miller nodded slowly. Our history isn't something we're proud of, but we learned from it. We grew. General Rax looked at the injured engineer, then back at Miller. I believe we have misjudged humans, significantly. 3 days after the solar flare incident, the leaders of both species gathered on Mars Station for what would be their final meeting before the Karakians departed for Galactic Council space. The atmosphere was dramatically different from their first encounter. General Rax entered the conference room without his usual guards. Science Officer Zex followed, carrying several data devices. On the human side, Commander Miller, Lieutenant Wells, and Ambassador Wright waited, along with Chief Engineer Rivera, her hands still bandaged but healing well. Before we begin formal proceedings, Rax said, his voice less harsh than before, I wish to extend the gratitude of the Karakian Empire for your assistance during the solar event. Without your intervention, our ship would have sustained severe damage. Ambassador Wright nodded. We're pleased we could help, General. Rax seemed uncomfortable, which was an unusual sight for such an imposing being. I must also apologize for our initial assessment of your species. It was incorrect and based on incomplete information. Science Officer Zex stepped forward. With the General's permission, I would like to present my findings to both delegations. At Rax's nod, she activated a holographic display in the center of the table. Images of Earth appeared, its varied landscapes, weather systems, and creatures. Our initial scans of Earth were accurate regarding its physical conditions, Zex explained. What we failed to understand was the nature of humanity's adaptation to these conditions. The display showed humans in various environments, climbing mountains, diving in oceans, crossing deserts, and surviving in frozen wastelands. Karakians evolved on a planet with consistently harsh conditions, Zex continued. High gravity, toxic atmosphere, aggressive predators. Our bodies adapted physically, scales for protection, strength for combat, multiple eyes for better threat detection. The hologram shifted to show early human history. Humans face different challenges. Earth has more varied dangers than Karak. Its climate ranges from extreme heat to extreme cold. Its geography includes mountains, oceans, deserts, and forests. Each environment presents unique challenges. Rather than evolving specialized physical traits for one harsh environment, humans developed adaptability. She showed images of human tools, shelters, and technologies. Without natural weapons, they created tools. Without fur or scales, they made clothing. Without physical strength, they invented machines. Most importantly, without the natural advantages that other Earth predators possessed, they developed their minds and their social structures. Zex looked directly at the humans. Your greatest adaptation wasn't physical. It was social cooperation and problem-solving, the very traits we initially mistook for weakness. General Rax took over. When we first scanned your world and saw its conditions, we expected to find beings like ourselves, physically powerful, naturally armored. Instead, we found you. It seemed impossible that such physically limited beings could evolve on a death world. But we did, Miller said quietly, by helping each other, by thinking our way out of problems we couldn't overcome physically. Precisely, Zex agreed, and perhaps most remarkably, you survived yourselves. She displayed images from human wars, then the aftermath of rebuilding. Karakians rarely fought each other. External threats kept us unified. Humans had the capacity to destroy themselves many times over, yet you stepped back from that brink. Ambassador Wright smiled sadly. We came close to extinction by our own hand more than once. Those experiences taught us valuable lessons about cooperation. General Rax stood, his massive frame straightening to its full height. Based on Science Officer Zex's findings and our own observations, I am officially recognizing humans as fellow Deathworlders. When we return to Council Space, we will register Earth as a Class 5 Death World, the same classification as Karak. The humans exchanged surprised glances. What does that classification mean? Lieutenant Wells asked. It means, Zex explained, that the Galactic Council recognizes your species evolved under conditions that would be fatal to most sentient life. It grants certain privileges and protections under Council law. It also means, Rax added, that other species will approach you with caution and respect. Deathworlders are not to be trifled with. Ambassador Wright looked thoughtful. We don't want to be feared, General. Perhaps not, Rax replied. But in galactic politics, being respected is valuable, and now I understand that humans are worthy of that respect, even if the source of your strength is different from ours. Miller studied the general. What happens next? We return to Council Space and report our findings, Rax said. Then, if your people wish it, we can begin formal discussions about Earth joining the Galactic Council. And if we join this council, Wright asked, what would be expected of us? You would have access to advanced technologies, Zex said, trade opportunities with hundreds of worlds, protection from hostile species. And in return, Miller pressed. Rax and Zex exchanged glances. Each member contributes according to their strengths, Rax explained. Some provide raw materials, others, scientific knowledge. He paused. Deathworlders typically provide military support when needed. You want us to fight for the Council? Wells said bluntly. Not immediately, Rax clarified. But yes, eventually, Deathworld species make natural protectors. We understand threats that others cannot comprehend. We are willing to face dangers that would terrify other species. Ambassador Wright considered this. We would need to discuss this possibility with our governments. We've spent generations trying to move beyond our violent past. I understand, Rax said, but consider this. Your adaptation to violence gives you unique insights into preventing it. Perhaps your role wouldn't be fighting wars, but stopping them before they begin. The meeting continued for several more hours as they discussed details of future communications and potential relations. As it drew to a close, Rax approached Miller privately. Commander, may I speak with you alone? They moved to the station's observation deck, looking out at the red Martian landscape and the stars beyond. "I've been a warrior all my life," Rax said. "I believe strength was measured by combat prowess, by the ability to dominate others physically. Your people have shown me another perspective." Miller nodded. "Each species finds its own path to survival." "Indeed. But I wonder if the Karakian path has been too narrow." Rax turned his 4 eyes toward the human. "We have much to learn from each other, I think." "I agree," Miller said. "That's the point of exploration. Not just to find new worlds, but new ideas." Rax extended his massive hand. Miller shook it, his human hand disappearing in the Karakian's grip. "Until we meet again, Commander Miller of Earth." "Until then, General Rax of Carrick." As the Karakian ships prepared to depart the next day, the crew of the Horizon gathered to watch from Mars Station. The alien vessels rose gracefully from orbit, their engines glowing brightly against the black of space. "Do you think they'll be back?" Lieutenant Wells asked. "Yes," Miller replied with certainty. "And next time they'll come as friends." As the Karakian ships disappeared into the distance, humanity stood at the threshold of a new era. They had faced the judgment of fellow Deathworlders and proved their worth, not through physical might, but through the very adaptations that had allowed them to survive Earth. Ingenuity, cooperation, and an indomitable will to overcome challenges. The stars, once thought to be empty, now promised new connections and perhaps new understanding.